embrace truth, justice, peace, and a path to prosperity, I believe that America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
Whew. Tuesday is going to be a long day and night because we've got the State of the Union coming up tonight. So are you one of the people who kind of has to stay up to watch it? I have been on trips in California. I mean, of course, it's in California, it's a little easier because it starts at 6 p.m. instead of 9 p.m. Eastern time. But I remember being in Miami for some event in Miami, and I was the only person who left the event to go back to the hotel room to watch the State of the Union. That was Trump first term, I guess. And over the years, when I worked in the Senate, I've never been in the chamber for the State of the Union speech. So that's got to be a unique experience. I've got a couple of friends, one of them, David Bodkins in Rico, who's going to be there tonight in the chamber, which I think is kind of interesting. He's a guest of one of the Congress people. I imagine that's a very unique experience. I've always been outside working the media, either being interviewed or arranging for people to be interviewed to respond to the president's speech. So 9 o'clock tonight, we think, Donald Trump arrives at the Capitol and steps up, and he has warned everybody as of yesterday that it should be a long speech. He's getting a reputation for being very, very long-winded, even with a scripted text. And I think that's got to be, in part, strategy to push the Democrats later in the night when nobody's watching, make it less likely that they get attention. I mean, who cares? If California hears Abigail Spanberger speaking, half of those people won't understand what she's saying because she'll be speaking in English. The Democrats have a Spanish-speaking response, and I think they think they're being really smart with that. I think it exposes part of the problem that we've got culturally, that we have a country that now speaks two languages primarily, English and Spanish. And, nice people who believe the Hallmark card version of humanity don't have a problem with that. Oh my gosh, how great that we speak to, it's a diverse country and diverse cultures, and we speak different languages, until they have to order their food at the restaurant, or they're working with a contractor trying to understand what's being done at the house and how much it's going to cost them and what the terms of the agreement will be. And somebody doesn't understand correctly, and then they've got a gun pointed in their face because they didn't pay the right amount of money, or the project stops. There's some practical reasons why everybody should probably speak one language, one unifying language. I don't know, what you do when you get home. I've got family in California, and we've had this conversation, and they were part of the family that was created as citizens by Ronald Reagan in the deal that the Democrats didn't honor back in the 80s. And they love Ronald Reagan, and they hate every other Republican, maybe even me these days. I don't know. I hope not. But, they're very hostile to Republicans out in California. And one of the problems is the language divide. You see it in Florida. You see it in California. I felt it even when I was in college in Texas. The language divide is a problem. So the Democrats think they're being so clever, and maybe politically they are being clever, but they're revealing one of the problems we've got in the country is that we can't all listen to the same event, watch the same event, and come to conclusions. Whether you agree with me or not is really irrelevant, but we can't all engage in the same way. And they're acknowledging that there's a problem because they've got to trot out Governor Spanberger to offer her response from Williamsburg tonight. Interesting, now Democrats love colonial America, right? They always love American history when they can exploit it for their own use. The rest of the time they hate it. So we'll see. Maybe she'll do a required denunciation of everybody who lived in Virginia prior to what year did we become acceptable? That's what I want to know. Is it now? It's probably now. Now that she's been elected governor, now everybody's okay, or half the Commonwealth is okay now. But everybody who lived before the election of 2025, there's something fundamentally wrong with them. I mean, I'm not making that up. That seems to be the consensus as these people analyze American heritage and Virginia heritage, is that we suddenly have it figured out. I don't know if you've been checking. It doesn't look to me like we've figured it out. In fact, I think we're about to destroy everything that's been handed to us in the last 50 years. But whatever, you've got Abigail Spanberger giving a response, and then you've got a Spanish-speaking response too. So they're acknowledging that this is a problem. And the other thing that I've got to make a point of, and I posted about it on the John Reid show, the Reid Revolution page on Facebook this morning. Both of the pages, by the way, if you would give us a like on both pages, that would be very, very helpful. Democrats are going to boycott. I guess it's 36, 40, 50 of the Democrats are not going to come to the State of the Union tonight. So what does that mean? Do you think that's prudent or appropriate? If you're a sitting congressperson and this is the moment where you're supposed to hear the address from the president, by tradition, it used to just be that the president would send a document to the House and there wasn't a formal speech. But of course, with the arrival of television and radio and media, this becomes an opportunity for the president to speak to the nation. And we all kind of agreed, right? Even if we hate the person who's speaking, we all kind of agreed we'll sit through this and we'll give the opposition a chance to respond, right? In a sense of fairness. The leader of whatever party is in charge of the executive branch gets to speak. And then even if the minority doesn't have standing in the House or the Senate, as is today, Democrats are in the minority in both of those places, we will give them a chance to respond. Equal time, right? That's a sense of fairness. I think that's right. The modern Democrat mindset is not about fairness. It's about power. And they're demonstrating that right now in Virginia with the gerrymandering plan. This is all about taking over. They're really angry that Donald Trump and the Republicans have called them on what they've been doing for decades in California and in Massachusetts and in other states where Democrats have more than 50% of the vote. They're really mad about it. It's like having a new auditor come in and look at the books and say, you do realize that these books are all cooked, that somebody's stealing from you. And the people who've been around for a while, who are used to benefiting from the theft, get really ticked that someone has figured them out. That's what's happened here. The Republicans figured out we're getting screwed. We're getting screwed in the way the lines are drawn. 45% of the voting population doesn't have a voice in Washington. That's by design. That's by design. I'm not going to say that either party is pure as the driven snow. I can't claim that. Now that I've been, a candidate, I can't tell you that. But I will tell you the Democrats perfected this a long time ago, and then they added on to it by importing people who were counted in the census, but in theory at least don't get to vote. So, people who are here on visas and here illegally get counted in the census, so they get extra weight to Democrat stronghold areas, even though supposedly they're not voting. I still question whether illegals are voting. I think that that's a legitimate question. I watched that Democrats in Virginia fought Governor Youngkin all the way to the Supreme Court to make sure that the illegals stayed on the voting rolls. People who said, hey, I'm here illegally, or I don't have the right to vote and I'm still on the voting rolls. A responsible governor tried to take them off the voter rolls and the Democrats wouldn't have it. So please stop telling me that you don't want to cheat, okay? I mean, you've admitted it and you fought all the way to the Supreme Court. So the Democrats have demonstrated for years now that they're going to rig the system any way they possibly can, and that even when you discover it and point it out, they will be belligerent about it like removing the names of illegals from the voter rolls, all the way to the point of taking it to the Supreme Court. They're committed to cheating. They're committed to um, corruption. Committed to corruption. Because I will tell you, if it was my party, I would say these people aren't eligible to vote. They got to go. They got to go. They got to leave the room. They got to. They don't get a ballot. Make sure that they are not. But I don't understand. Even if it was a 50-50 split, I've just been raised, and I'm the kind of person who thinks that we got to be fair about this. So Democrats are committed to corruption, and it's gotten so bad that they can't even do the symbolic stuff. You know, we learned that years ago when they decided they weren't going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. One of the few moments where everybody, at least hypothetically, agrees that they're going to commit to defend the nation. Doesn't say I'm going to be a Republican, doesn't say I'm going to be a Democrat, doesn't say I'm going to be a libertarian. It's I am going to pledge allegiance to this flag, which unifies all of us, hypothetically, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So the Democrats were the first ones to walk away from that. I had a boss once who kept saying, "Oh my God, John, I don't understand how the American flag has become a dividing point." I was like, "You don't? You don't? Your party is the party constantly defending burning the flag. Your party is the constantly purging the flag from public events, not wanting to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And you don't understand why the American flag has become one of the places. I know a couple of people who do delivery to make some extra money, and they tell me, "Oh, I know when I go to a house that has the American flag out front, I'll get a tip, and it's a semi-patriotic family if you talk to anybody there." How bad is that? That's where we've come. It's weird. Every house I've ever bought, the first thing I did, sometimes even before I opened the door, was put the American flag out front. You know, there's no American flag at my house right now because the wind blew it down, and I'm still trying to figure out how to screw it into the wood without cracking the wood. But that's the only reason there's not an American flag, and I intend to get that up there and put the 250 flag up. That's who I am, and that's where I think most Republicans are, is that type of patriotism. And that, I hate to say it, this is observational, and I don't think anyone can push back on it with in a practical sense. That's not where the Democrats are. They just don't share that patriotism. So they're skipping the State of the Union tonight. They're skipping the State of the Union. I will tell you, if I was a congressman, even if I hated the president, or detested the president, disagreed with everything, like Joe Biden. Let's say I had been in the Congress when Joe Biden was president. Clearly a dementia patient, a total joke in the White House. Decisions being made by staffers, not by the president. Total loser. It's just mind-blowing to me that we allowed him to be in the White House for 4 years when it was clear that he couldn't find his way on stage or off stage. It was embarrassing that we all tolerated that, and that people are still making excuses for it. He's out now. You can be honest about it now. You wanted power, so you propped up the old man, and you avoided having him appear in public. And when he did appear in public and he fell down on his face, you still made excuses. Okay, just be honest about it. It was typical of Democrats, all about power. But I would go to the State of the Union. I would be there. That's part of my job, is to be there. I don't have to go hear every prime minister who's invited to speak. I don't have to listen to guest speakers in caucus meetings, and that's not part of my job. But going to the State of the Union and then responding in real time based on what I saw and what I experienced, that is what I would do. Not these guys. So I think you should be maybe not angry about it, but you should take note that the Democrats have made that point, that they're not going to show up. The men's hockey team supposedly will be there. Can you believe the reaction to the men's hockey team? Gold medal winners. And I think that's exciting. I'm not a huge sports fan, but I used to watch the Olympics nonstop. I'm excited that we finally won the gold in men's hockey again. Wow, how amazing. Go USA. Great athletes. They won. This is fantastic. We should all take pride in that. As soon as Kash Patel was in the locker room, and as soon as President Trump, who, whether you like him or not, is the president of the United States, speaks to them, go on social media, all you see is Democrats saying, I'm ashamed of you. Oh, I'm ashamed to be American. Who are you? Really? Your pride in a gold medal win in hockey is based on whether or not the sitting president calls the hockey team and congratulates them? I mean, truly, you should do some self study, have some reflection on who you are as a person, if that is a problem for you. I didn't like Joe Biden. I didn't care for Barack Obama, but it would have been appropriate for both of them to congratulate the American team on winning. What is the issue here? This is why we can't, for God's sake, we can't agree on policy, because you can't even do the most basic symbolic things. You can't agree to be polite. You can't go to the Kennedy Center, and when the president of the United States, whoever it is, walks in, stand and, I mean, you don't even really have to applaud, just be semi-polite. I used to do it when Bill Clinton was president. He and Hillary would walk in. I didn't like them, but, I'm a polite person. I would stand for the president. Not necessarily for him. I didn't like it. I would stand. I mean, these are the basics that you do in a civilized society like ours to show respect. It's like shaking hands with your opponent. It's like acknowledging your opponent. Remember, I mean, Ghazala Hashmi refused to have a debate with me. I take that personally. She might have still won if we'd had a debate, but she refused to do that. I mean, this is typical of the modern Democrat mindset, is not to engage in any of the normal elements of civilized society in a representative democracy. They're trashing every tradition, everything that actually informs the public. So their goal tonight is to encourage Democrats not to even listen to Donald Trump. How stupid is that? How reckless is that? The guy's making decisions. Maybe you'll still hate them, but don't you think, if you're a critic, if you're constantly posting online about how you hate Donald Trump, wouldn't it be wise? Wouldn't it be intellectual for you to watch the speech yourself and not just rely on 5 or 6 loudmouth influencers, myself included, to tell you what was said? Maybe you could invest an hour to kind of understand once or twice a year, in between stuffing your face with French fries and, watching porn on the internet. Maybe you could watch 1 hour that would inform you of what is happening in government. And this would be one of those hours, hour and a half, right? They won't do it. And the goal is to make sure that Democrats never hear from Donald Trump, because you may hate him, just like I didn't care for Barack Obama or Joe Biden, but it's important that you understand what they're trying to communicate to you. And then you can have an informed decision about what your opposition is, rather than just being told, oh, this guy's awful and this is what he said and it's terrible, but you didn't actually hear it and you're just acting on the talking points. I don't think that's too much to ask for an informed group of people, especially people who are so quick in social media and elsewhere to denounce Donald Trump. Maybe you should actually listen to him. I do want to tell you that you got to pay attention to what's happening in Mexico. I mentioned this yesterday, but this is what's coming to America. And I don't know what happened to Nancy Guthrie. I feel sick to my stomach. Now they've offered another $1 million reward. Savannah Guthrie did a video this morning offering that money. She seems to, it's so sad to watch that. I think the realization that perhaps this poor lady has passed away is hitting the family. It's just disgusting. It's terrible to see this happen. I I don't know their politics. I don't care. It's just terrible to see. But look, if you look at what happened to Nancy Guthrie and you look at what's happening with the drug cartels setting buildings on fire and basically holding people hostage, I mean, knock on wood, at the moment they haven't killed the Americans in the hotels. So that's a good thing, right? Oh, we're at the mercy of the drug cartels if you go on vacation in Mexico. That's how bad it's become. This is what's coming to America if we're not tough now against the drug dealers. So I don't want to hear any more sadness about bombing boats filled with drugs in the Caribbean off the coast of Florida or down by Cuba or Dominican Republic. We please stop. Please stop. Grow up. Be a responsible adult who recognizes there is a lot of evil in the world, and it takes some strong, tough people to deal with it. Now, maybe you don't want to deal with it. Maybe you want to go to the ballet recital, or you want to get drunk and high on the weekend, and maybe you're making tons of money. Good for you. Maybe you're not a loser. Maybe you're not a pothead. Maybe you're not a loser. Maybe you're one of these Democrats who's done very well in America and you still hate America. If you're not tough enough to deal with the ugly reality that is coming our way, just go back to your money and let people who are wide-eyed and open-minded and can see what's happening, let us deal with it without your constant criticism, because we're not living in a Hallmark movie. Things are not nice. You go to the resort in Cabo and have unlimited drinks and unlimited food while people are starving 2 blocks away. Maybe you can block that out and you think that's Mexico. Good for you. But it's not Mexico. And the corruption and the violence is coming to America. And Donald Trump appears, and this is me being critical of Republicans, he's the only person that I've seen in my lifetime who is willing to take this on. The kidnapping of old ladies who just happen to be the mother of rich celebrities. That happens all the time in Central and South America. If you're a big soccer player, you have to be worried that somebody in your family is going to be kidnapped for ransom because the thugs are trying to get money out of you. This is the way the rest of the world lives. And it's great that Americans are blind to that and don't know it. It's sad that in all of my travels around the world, I have seen it up close, and I've been aware that there's been a target on my back as an American business person. But if you don't know it, cool, then keep your mouth shut and let people who actually see the threats deal with it. I think that's probably pretty important. So don't let them sweep this Mexico thing off the front page, because that's going to be the United States in another decade or two if Donald Trump fails or is prevented from getting rid of these people one way or another. Deporting them would be the best solution. And I hope that we can do that in an orderly and peaceful way, and that innocent people are not hurt. But the Democrats seem intent on stymieing that effort. And that's a big problem for all of us. Listen, I want to give away some tickets to the Virginia Forum, which is coming up this Friday with Jamie Franklin. So when we come back, I will tell you how you can get 2 free tickets to the Virginia Forum with Jamie Franklin at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. Stay with us. We'll return. We're going to talk to Tim Murtaugh, formerly comms director for the Trump campaign years ago, and now he is working with clients all over the country. We'll talk to Tim when we return on the Reid Revolution. Pretty soon, there'll be a little commercial break there. I'm not going to let this turn into one of these heavy commercial things where you go, what show was I watching, or who was I listening to? It's been commercials for so long. I'm not going to do that with this product, but we got to make some money at some point. So if you're interested in being an advertiser on the program, I'm going to put up an address for you, thereidrevolution@gmail.com, thereidrevolution@gmail.com. And here's the deal. with the Virginia Forum. Jamie Franklin, who started the Conservator website and has been all over the country talking to young women about being leaders in their community with the Virginia Council. She will be joining us for the Virginia Forum on Friday night, this Friday night, the 27th, at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. Now, it struck me, like, why am I not giving away a couple of tickets to the people who are watching this program? I can do it. Let's do that. So if you are, let's say, the 10th person to email the reidrevolution@gmail.com, just put tickets in the subject line. Tickets in the subject line, the reidrevolution@gmail.com. I got 2 free VIP tickets for you to see Jamie Franklin in person and to meet her in the VIP reception, which I think starts at 5:30 or something on Friday. So just email the reidrevolution@gmail.com. If you're the 10th person to email us with tickets in the subject line, producer Dan will get back to you and we'll put you on the list to attend the VIP reception and hear from Jamie Franklin. I think she's really an interesting person, and she's on the rise. You know, one of the goals of the Virginia Forum is to give a platform to people that are on the rise in society. Maybe everybody doesn't know them yet, but you're going to know them, and I think Jamie's one of those people. All right, somebody that you heard me talk to frequently when I was at WRVA, who's been a longtime friend of mine, is Tim Murtaugh. He was the communications director for President Trump's campaign in 2020 and is now running his own operation and working with clients all over the country. And hey, we get to actually see you in person. Just like
how about
podcast.
that, John? I know
the Line Drive podcast. How are you doing with that?
I'm doing. You know what? The Line Drive podcast went on hiatus when I moved down to West Palm Beach, Florida, for the final 4.5 months of the presidential campaign last year, or 2 years ago now, 2024. And I did not. Hogan Gidley and I did not have time to keep up with it because he was busy too. He does a lot of work for Speaker Johnson now, and we just haven't gotten back to it. It's sitting there on the shelf. Man. Yeah, I know. I know. Come on in. The water's fine, right? Isn't that?
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I know
We're
you're
trying.
doing great. I hope this show is going well, John. Your radio show was always so great. So
well, people have
been
very
by the way, this is the way I always dressed when I was on the radio with you.
Yes,
you just,
I bet.
You know,
me too.
Yeah,
actually,
I
did wear a jacket even though nobody could see me. But you know, everybody else at the radio station was barely in sweats. I mean, you were lucky if they didn't show up.
Yeah, I worked in radio. I know.
You know.
I know.
All right. So one of the reasons I want to talk to you, Tim, and there are a lot of issues to discuss, but you were with President Trump preparing for major speeches during the campaign, and you know him and his personality. What do you think is happening as they get ready for the State of the Union tonight?
Well, this is a speech that's been many weeks in preparation, no doubt, and the speechwriters have been very busy, and I know that they go and they work very closely with the president and the entire communications team and the policy team in the White House, and they gather information. When I served in the first Trump administration, I was communications director for Sonny Perdue, who was the Secretary of Agriculture at USDA, and I would get emails and phone calls from the speechwriting team when it came to the State of the Union time, asking for facts or for information or for some clarification about agricultural policy. You know, at the time then, of course, President Trump was using tariffs as a real weapon to protect the country and to defend our economy, and a lot of that centered on agriculture at the time. And I think history kind of repeats itself because those same principles are at work here in the second term. So they've been working hard on this speech for a while. I'm sure President Trump has gone through it a couple of times, and when he gets out there in the House chamber later tonight, I'm sure this is a speech that has been edited and refined, and it's going to hit all of the messages that he wants to hit. And of course, as we know, the president is not always constrained by what is on the written page or what is on the teleprompter in front of him. So, despite what the speechwriters put down there on the paper, the president may well go in a different direction. Who knows? He will do some of his weaves, I'm sure, where he leaves the trail and then weaves around and comes back.
Does he rehearse
it's going to be an
entertaining
speech. I think he rehearses certain parts of it. And there are certain themes that he likes to return to. If you watched, I went to in 2019 and 2020 more so than 2024. But in 2019 and 2020, I can't even tell you how many Trump rallies I went to, and so how many speeches I heard the president give, from anywhere from an hour and 10 minutes long to 2.5 hours long. And you hear certain parts. He likes certain themes over and over again, but and because it's a new audience each time, they haven't heard it before necessarily.
Right.
So he likes to return to things that are comfortable for him and that he knows works. And there's going to be some surprises in there. I guess the gold medal winning men's hockey team is going to be there, or at least they were invited and said they wanted to go. So I guess we'll see.
That should be a great moment. Do you think Democrats will applaud, or will they be total jerks like they were with that poor little kid who had survived cancer? Remember how awful that was?
Oh
Like,
gosh,
what is
I
wrong
sure
with you
do.
people?
The kid, he wanted to be a police officer since,
Yeah.
he was still a child. I don't know if they're going to be able to control themselves. I think, I heard you allude to it, and everybody knows the Democrats are going to try to do, a little boycott or whatever. And who cares? So what? Be a child if you want to. But I think a lot of them are doing that because they know if they stay in the chamber, they won't be able to control themselves. Like, Al Green, not Al Green. Yeah, Al Green stood up and waved his cane at the president the last time, yelling at him and, booing and refusing. There are some guaranteed applause lines built into every State of the Union address. And the Democrats are just determined never to applaud anything. And so if the United States of America men's hockey team, which just won the gold medal in the Olympics, is acknowledged and everybody applauds, and the Democrats don't. I mean, that just simply shows you, once again, this sounds trite by this point, but their hatred of Trump outweighs everything. Everything. Including
There's
just being
not
common
one unifying
decency.
thing in the country for them.
It seems that way. It really, truly seems that way. If you look at this endless parade, just take a look at all the American athletes, John, that were up in front of reporters in a press conference setting after having won a medal at these recent Olympics, right, that just ended. Time after time after time, these cranky lefty reporters would ask them, "It's very difficult to be an American right now on the world stage. What are your thoughts on stuff
Setting
it
it
man.
up is a problem.
Get bent."
Right.
Honest to God. And the American liberal, they wake up in the morning hating America. And that is just a terrible way to be. I can't imagine living in a country that you despise. Yet they do. That's a question for them to answer, really, I guess. Why would you do that?
I've known people who have had really horrible divorces where bad stuff happened, really bad stuff happened,
Sure.
On a personal level. And they have managed to show up at the wedding of their daughter or their son and at least be civilized and polite for an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird to me and that's really personal.
Yeah.
And it's weird to me that these folks just don't seem to be able to manage that.
And it's crazy that a guy like Chuck Schumer, he's known Donald Trump for 40 years maybe? Coming from New York like he does and Trump. And, he used to take Donald Trump's campaign donations. They were pals, right? And now all of a sudden they've turned. Also, when the president tonight says stuff about securing the border and stopping the flow of illegal immigration, which he has done, right? When he says that stuff, the Democrats are going to sit there like this, right? They're not going. Chuck Schumer used to say those very same things on the floor of the Senate. He used to say them himself. And now he can't even applaud it when somebody else says it because that somebody else happens to be Donald Trump, and he's not allowed to like anything that Donald Trump does.
They're really playing
it's
for
sad.
keeps.
It's sad.
I mean, you look at what's happening in Virginia, Tim, with this gerrymandering plan. Even though we, I think, set the standard for the country with a constitutional amendment to try to make something that is political as non-political as possible, which we should hold up for everybody in the country. Like, don't you want to do what Virginia's leading again? And the Democrats are going to trash all of that for purely partisan reasons based on things that are happening elsewhere. Hypothetically, I think it's just a power grab. They would have jumped at anything. I mean, there is no common ground now, and that's frustrating.
It is. And, they say, oh, we're doing this because of what Republicans are doing in other states. Abigail Spanberger knew what was happening in those other states that they talk about while she was running for governor in August of 2025. The whole world knew what these other states were and were not up to. And she still said, this is a direct quote, "I don't have plans to redistrict Virginia." She was well aware of what was happening in those other states, and she still promised to not gerrymander in Virginia. And then she wins, and what happens? It's the same way, you know this, you were on the ticket, John. They all campaigned as moderates, and as soon as they win, the mask comes off. There's not anything that moves, and quite a few things that don't, that they are considering taxing in the General Assembly this year. And by God, Abigail Spanberger hasn't ruled out a single tax increase. There's income tax increases, there's investment tax, there's a sales tax increase, there's taxes on dog walking, on lawn care, on your lawn mower. It's insane. It's insane, all the stuff that they're going to do.
If I were governor and I was mad that my party was turning me into a liar within 30 days of becoming governor, you can damn well be sure I would set a speech up where I would call my people out and say, you better get in line right now. I'm the governor, not you. And this is where we're going. She won't do that. And I think that's not going to serve her well for the next 4 years, because they're going to drag her around like they did Ralph Northam.
Yeah, and look at what she did in the very first week that she was governor, and the General Assembly, of course, was already underway when she became governor. And all these Democrats, and they're like, yes, now we have a Democrat governor who will sign our crazy legislation. They filed all these tax bills that I was just talking about, all these crazy social issue, leftist, crazy bills, all filed, and it became really a big news story. Lots of different news outlets, national and state, were writing stories about the extremist legislation that had been introduced in Richmond under the new. And some people online on Twitter and others said, well, yeah, that's just, anybody can introduce a bill about anything. And that's true to a certain extent. You could do that. But it became a narrative that the Democrats have done this as soon as they get elected. And now look how crazy leftward they've gone, right? Yeah. And if you're the governor, like you just said, and that is not your intention to do that, you would say, hey, wait a second, I don't want this story to take hold. I want to stop this narrative right now, and I want to say, hey, I campaigned as a moderate, and I am. She didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
She didn't do
I
any
think
of
it's
that.
pretty revealing.
She let it go.
What does she do now that the Democrats have chosen her to do at least the English speaking? I mean, my God, we're now doing a Spanish response and English.
I'm surprised there's not a Somali response.
I'm seriously.
There should be one.
There should be something.
And for those of you in Minnesota, now the Somali response.
Yeah. What does she do, you think, with her response? Does she try to play moderate? Does she use it as an opportunity to cater to the Democrat base and maybe set herself up, just bash Trump nonstop?
She's going to attack the president for sure. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. But she's going to pretend. She's going to continue pretending to be something that she's not. She's going to go back into campaign mode, and she's going to put the mask back on and begin masquerading as the non-leftist that got elected. And when she takes off, then of course we know what happens when she takes office, because by selecting her, Democrats are showing that they think that she is their model. She is their best test case. Like, look at our new star. She went and got elected in Virginia, and my gosh, we are so proud of her. That proves that Democrats are not who they say they are, and they are not telling you the truth about what their plans are. Mm-hmm. Because if they are holding her up as just the best case, like, this is our best candidate, look at her, we're giving her this awesome speech and right in the spotlight, that means, hey, everybody around the country, you should replicate this. That's what they're saying. And that means go ahead and lie to your voters, take a reasonable map that produced six Democrats and 5 Republicans in the congressional seats there, turn it into a 10-to-1 Democrat map. You know, Kamala Harris got less than 52% of the vote in Virginia, John. You well know this.
Right.
And now Democrats are going to give themselves 91% of the congressional seats.
While they chant about protecting democracy.
They call it fair.
Yeah.
They say, oh, this is restoring fairness. My word.
This is what democracy looks like. No, actually, it's not when you're silencing 40-some% of the vote. Well, we've got to reach out as a Republican. I've got to figure out how to reach out to the moderates. This was I guess I failed in it, my challenge last year, even though I tried. And I went to a lot of places where people aren't reflexively Republican, not just going to the Republican committee meetings, but to mosques and temples and, churches led by black pastors who were kind of surprised when I showed up. I mean, I made a real effort to reach out to other people. Didn't work. What does the president do, or what do Republicans do so that the speech tonight doesn't turn into this partisan divide moment that I think the Democrats are attempting to execute on.
Well, I mean, the Democrats just can't help themselves. That's the fact about that. But I think that, I mean, the president's going to talk about a lot of stuff, and the first part of this second term of his has really been wildly successful. Remember the economy that he had when he took over. Inflation is down, wages are up, interest rates are coming down. The mortgage rate is below 6% for the first time since 2022. The border is secure. They are conducting interior enforcement. So I think it's like 2.5 million people already deported. So many of them self-deported. America has improved on the world stage. You know, I mean, historic reductions in crime in major cities across the country, lowest crime rates in over 100 years. And I think he's going to talk about some certain bread and butter issues, kitchen table issues that really cuts across all party lines, John, and moderates health insurance, for one. You know, the president has been calling health insurance CEOs on the carpet. Republicans have had them grilled in front of committees. What's happening with health insurance is for most Americans, very much, it's a health question for sure, but it's also very much an economic question because premiums keep rising, but the coverage keeps getting worse. If this were a bank and you'd been putting money into the bank every month for your entire life, and then you went and tried to get access to your money and they denied you, you would freak out. There would be a financial crisis. There'd be a run on banks. Well, health insurance companies do that every day of the week. People have been paying them monthly for decades, and then they go and try and access their medical coverage, and they can't get it. And so, I mean, President Trump is, I think, probably going to dedicate a portion of the speech to saying, hey, you are selling people a product, health insurance companies, and they're not getting it.
Right.
You know, so you better get your act together or somebody's going to get it together for you.
You know, the
Right?
Democrats are constantly defending Luigi Mangione, you know, who executed a guy, murdered a guy on the streets of New York.
He certainly did.
I think if the reporting is to believed and to be believed, and I'm not sure I could believe the reporting, but I think the reason he did it was hostility and vengeance towards the CEO of the health insurance company. You would think that this would be a place that reasonable people could come together and actually help fix this situation, that they would applaud President Trump for recognizing it, unless you really were trying to cause the collapse of the system so that you get a single payer socialist system, which I think is their ultimate goal. But
the Democrats and these insurance companies are an unholy alliance, and they have been for decades. I mean, think about Obamacare. Obamacare, since it passed, I mean, with trillions of dollars maybe of taxpayer money, and where do you think that goes? When they're talking about the cost of Obamacare, where does that go? It goes to the insurance companies. They're raking it in. They got everything they wanted from the Democrats on that. No Republican votes, zero. The Biden Inflation Reduction Act, again, no Republican votes. Billions, tens of billions of dollars to the health insurance companies. Heck, Gavin Newsom, in his Prop 50 out in California, his redistricting, John, we just talked about Virginia's. Of course, he's doing it out in California, kicking Republicans out of Congress in California. Guess who helped him finance the publicity campaign for that? United Health and other health insurance companies. United Health is only the largest health insurance company in the world. And they helped Gavin Newsom throw Republicans out of Congress in California as payback for all the billions and billions and billions they got in Obamacare and other legislation through the years from the Democrats. And so don't expect the Democrats to help. Don't expect them to help.
If you're actually paying attention. Yeah. All right, give me the 30-second pitch. I know you're not the comms director for Donald Trump anymore, but I find myself in lots of places where people are hostile to him. And I think I've got a good answer for why, as polarizing as he is as a person, he's doing a good job for us. What would your answer be to that? A quick answer. Yeah.
The economy and security. Our nation is safe on the planet. Our neighborhoods are safer from the criminal element. Our borders are secure. And the illegal aliens and criminal illegal aliens are being rooted out and sent home. The economy is booming. Growth is massive. Inflation is down. Wages are up. Interest rates are falling. Mortgages are going to be cheaper. More people will be able to afford to buy homes than before. I mean, it's a great day in America. The Trump administration is succeeding. You are safer and better off than you were before he became president the second time. So, I mean, I think
you wouldn't know it if you read in the Post.
Well, he has his opponents. He does. But
and
the facts are facts.
Yeah. Hey, Tim Murtaugh, I always appreciate. Where should people follow you? Since I brought up the podcast that's not happening anymore.
I occasionally say things on X that my wife later tells me that she wishes that I had not said. So don't
That's where
follow
I
me on
wanna
X.
be.
I'm at Tim Murtaugh on X, but for God's sake, look away.
I want to
Don't
be
tell
in the
my
room
wife.
where you're saying things your wife doesn't approve of. That's that's what I'm looking for. Tim
So-
Murtaugh, thank
yeah.
you. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll
Thanks,
talk
John.
again
Good to see
soon.
you.
Okay.
Good luck with the show.
Thank you. All right, let's take a quick break. I'll give away another pair of VIP tickets to the Jamie Franklin speech at the Virginia Forum on Friday. When we come back to talk to former Virginia delegate Tim Anderson about the gerrymandering issue and a big announcement he made over the weekend that he's running in this special election that I guess is being decided today for the Republican nominee for House of Delegates for the seat that Delegate Barry Knight has given up due to his passing. So we'll talk about that with Tim in just a couple of moments here on the Reid Revolution. Welcome back to the Reid Revolution. I'm John Reid. And real quick, if you send me an email at the reidrevolution@gmail.com, you're the 10th person in this second flight to send us an email that says tickets in the subject line. We'll give you 2 VIP seats, which includes the reception to meet Jamie Franklin this Friday at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center, 5:30, and the speech is at 7 at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. And if you don't win these VIP tickets, you can get general tickets at a special discount if you go to thevirginiacouncil.org. But, if this is of interest to you at all, I would send that note real quick to the reidrevolution@gmail.com. Just put tickets in the subject line, and the 10th person in this half hour who emails me will get 2 free VIP tickets. Very excited to have Jamie Franklin coming this Friday. I'm also excited to talk to our next guest, former Virginia Beach delegate Tim Anderson, who we've talked to extensively. He's the prominent attorney in Virginia Beach who's constantly at battle with the leftists, and I have to applaud that. Tim made an announcement this weekend that he would seek the Republican nomination for the seat that has been vacated with the death of Delegate Barry Knight in Virginia Beach. And I know that Barry was a friend of yours, and he was very good to me during the campaign to Tim. So I feel like this is happening too quickly after his passing. It's kind of crass that it's occurring this way. How did this happen so fast? Democrats pushing it, or what's the deal?
Well, so Barry died last week, and Don Scott implemented a rule in the General Assembly which says that if a member dies during the General Assembly, an election has to occur within 30 days. Our sessions are short. You only have 60 days in office, and so the idea is if somebody dies, you got to replace them pretty quick to keep the business going.
Yeah.
However,
Well, that's noble, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it meant if it would be important if it was like a 51-49 thing. But I think that the big problem in this scenario is that they set it on March 17th, which is after sine die, which is the end of General Assembly session. So,
Yes, okay.
So they didn't have to do that. There's no way to seat a delegate prior to the General Assembly session dismissing and adjourning. And so the guy's not even in the ground yet. His funeral's not even until Saturday. And
wow.
we are having to snap a primary contest tonight from 4 to 7 p.m. in Virginia Beach. It's sickening. I mean, I want to be back in the General Assembly more than anything. Everybody knows that about me. And if I had known Barry Knight was going to die, I would have never run for anything else. I would have just patiently waited. But Barry's my friend, and he was healthy. I know he was sick, and we talked just about 2 weeks ago, and he was getting better. I talked to Barry about him coming back to reconvene session in April. It's tragic, and it's very sad that that we have to do this right now. And now all the people running are great people. They're
How many people are running besides you?
all 6 total.
Wow. I've
Yeah.
seen a couple of people pop up on Facebook. Now, I don't live in Virginia Beach, so I don't judge that I'm not familiar with them because maybe they're activists in Virginia Beach, and I'm just not familiar with them. I know you over the years when you were in, and you would come on the show frequently, so that's one reason I wanted to talk to you. How is this going to be decided in this 3 hours this evening?
Yeah, whoever gets the most votes.
So it's a balloting thing. It's not a convention
Now
where
it's just
you wait it out.
whoever votes, whoever will get out to vote. Somebody's going to win this seat with probably 300 votes. And
Are
once you become,
Democrats going to show up, or is this closed within the Republican committees?
well, we don't have party designation in Virginia,
Yeah,
so
right.
you don't know if somebody's Republican or Democrat. The party could ask a voter to sign a pledge statement if they thought they were a voter based upon their voting history. If you are voting in every Democrat primary in the past 10 years, then they could require.
So
the
the
person.
city's holding this event. It's not. It's not the Republican Party of Virginia picking the nominee.
No, the party is doing a firehouse primary.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
and the citizens of Virginia Beach in the 98th district can vote, and so
Gotcha.
that's how it's
Unlike
going.
a convention where you have to sign up and say you're a Republican and be verified, this is open. Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's going to be quick. The election started on Monday and it's over on Tuesday, and so I guess to that regard that's nice. But everybody that I've talked to that's running is kind of saying the same thing I'm saying, which is, what do you have to lose? It's one day. It's not a year like we've all gone through last year of grueling, door knocking and campaign events. It's one day. Put your hat in and see what happens, and that's all going to go down between 4 and 7 tonight in Virginia Beach.
Now, forgive me for not knowing this. Is this a safe Republican seat? Whoever wins tonight will most likely, barring something crazy, be the delegate from Virginia Beach?
They're the presumptive delegate going into this. The Democrats are doing their firehouse tomorrow, and there's nobody that's come up except the lady that ran against Barry last time. And so everybody looks at this as a ruby red, strong Republican seat, and whoever the winner is presumptively going to be the next delegate for the 98th.
Yeah. I should just ask, why do you want to go back to the House of Delegates?
Well, my colleagues in the General Assembly, many of them called me over the weekend, and they're like, "We need you back. We need your voice back." You know me, and I'm a lot like you. I say the uncomfortable things out loud. I have no problem, bringing fire to issues. And really, one thing I think I can do better than anybody else is the Democrats shut down the U.S. government last year over one issue. They shut the whole government down over one issue, and so they have become the party of obstructionism. And you know what? We need to take a playbook out of their, learn from them and do this, because, the Democrats are just running things through the General Assembly, and there's rules that can slow things down. And there are ways to, maybe not to stop them, but to slow things down. And when you have a short cycle, every minute that you are fussing about rules and procedure is good. We lost Todd Gilbert. We lost Bobby Orrock, which Bobby Orrock was the parliamentarian for our caucus.
And had been there a long time.
Yeah, he was number one. He's been there longer than anybody else. We lost Nick Freitas. And so we have Tom Garrett, who's great, but Tom's not strong on rules, and he's more of like just throwing fire. And so my colleagues want me back, and they know that I'll be able to bring some value. And then big thing is, you probably saw over this past weekend, I had 1,000 people at events over this weekend in the Southwest. I mean, once I get in, I'm in a solid red seat. My intention is to be able to travel the state, raise money, and flip seats in Hampton Roads, flip seats in Chesterfield, flip seats up in Fredericksburg. And there's ways to do that, but it just requires somebody who can do that. And so they know that, and they've asked me to go back. And you're right, sitting there, I'm not going to get anything done. I probably, if I win, I'm probably not going to file any bills, because the likelihood of them letting me get anything through is very low. So I'm just going to be the kid who pulls off the TV knob and sits in the corner and makes everybody chase him around. you know, and
Well, there's something to be said for that. I mean,
Yep.
you could file a bill to feed hungry orphans, and the Democrat mindset today is we will kill that and we'll put a Democrat name on it to push it through, but
Yep.
you ain't getting your stuff done. Now, I want to give you a chance to answer something, Tim, because Patty Lyman just put something up on the screen, and you were explaining your strategy about the gerrymandering issue, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said that Republicans needed to acknowledge, certainly to get the votes of what moderates and maybe Democrats who wanted to be fair, that the strategy that the president has implemented in other states to try to balance things, I do think it's balance things, not steal, but whatever, that you needed to acknowledge that Trump was wrong on that in your parlance. And a lot of people didn't like it. I saw the
I did too.
comments. You know, you say anything about Trump, and they do not. That's negative, and they don't care for that. I want to give you a chance to respond to that because I know it's irked a lot of people.
I appreciate that. I mean, look, you don't win elections in Virginia unless you have 50 plus one. You have to have 50 plus one. Trump has never done better in Virginia than 45%. And so Trump is, he's a dynamic guy, and thank God for him that, we don't have Kamala Harris as our president, or Hillary Clinton as our president, the first time. So thank God for him that, he came up. But we don't have to say that Trump does everything right all the time. And in this particular situation, we have got to get Democrats to vote no to this referendum. And the talking points to Democrats from their side are fight Trump, fight Trump, fight Trump. This is a way you can fight Trump. And so from my perspective, if our message is say no because it's not fair, but their message is fight Trump because look what they did in Texas, then I think you have to acknowledge in a state like Virginia that what the president did in Texas wasn't good. It backfired dramatically, and Virginia is going to get completely crushed. We're going to lose some of the best Congress people in the state on this ballot referendum, and I think we can message to Democrats that yeah, we didn't like what Trump did either. I think that's okay to say out loud in public. We don't like what he did in Texas because look what's happening now in Virginia, and to point to where we've had these opportunities in the past. Indiana didn't do it just recently, and then even a little bit further back, a bill came out of the Senate in Virginia, which would have wiped out every Democrat congressional seat in Virginia but one. When it passed the Senate, came over to the House, and the Speaker then, Speaker Howell, said, no, we're not going to do this. This isn't how Virginia works. We don't play games like that in Virginia, and our side killed that bill. So I think Republicans in Virginia from forever have just been, no, we don't want politicians to gerrymander. And that means we don't want politicians to gerrymander anywhere. We don't want politicians to gerrymander in Texas or Missouri. We don't want it. We want fair representation. And then, of course, you look at California, which is completely unfair and ridiculous. There's 52 seats out there, and there's 8 or 9 of them are Republicans, and the rest are Democrats. That's political.
If anybody really wanted to study it, they would see the pattern that Democrats have executed on in the last 40 years. Massachusetts being another state where there's Pennsylvania being another state where there's a significant Republican voter base in every election, but they don't have representation. This in Massachusetts too. This is the deal. Now let me ask you about the Trump situation though, because you saw what happened last year, and I'm not beating up on Winsome, but I do think if we're being honest, one of the things that was a problem was the sitting Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears did not support President Trump at the beginning. I think she came around and did support him once he was the nominee, but the Trump people never forgot that. I think, and that's my supposition, in Southwest Virginia, they weren't enthusiastic about a lead of the ticket who hadn't been Trump all the way. Is that fair to say? And how do you criticize him to try to win over votes in Northern Virginia, or offer a critique to win over votes in Northern Virginia without alienating the people who are just ride or die with Trump?
I think that fundamentally we have to be careful that we don't love our government, right? Our founding fathers invented the Second Amendment, and concocted it, not because they cared about you getting being protected from the bad guy. They were worried about the government shooting at them, right? And our history, our inner DNA as Americans is to hate our government, really, just to distrust them. We don't like government. And I think fundamentally, when you look at government as a whole, just because President Trump's in charge, we don't necessarily have to say government is good. And that means Trump too. We don't have to agree 100% of the time with the president, and still be able to be Republicans. And I don't like this purist test that some people have in our party, that if you disagree with Trump, you're not a Republican, or you're not a conservative. I don't like that. We should be able to say we don't like our government ever. We distrust it even when Trump's in charge, and it's okay to disagree with him, while at the same time saying, thank God it's him and not Kamala. Like, we've got to start being able to do that, because that is a big problem in our party, where the Trump people hate the traditionalists, and the traditionalists don't get along with the Tea Party, and all this infighting. But look, at the end of the day, I don't agree with Trump all the time, and I'm a little bit more outspoken than others on that. But I'm with my people, my Republican people, 90% of the time on issues. And when you're with somebody 90% of the time, and maybe there's a little bit of a disagreement here and there, that's okay. And we just need to be able to say that. We don't have to say every single thing President Trump does is right. And in a state like Virginia, when you have, at best, 45% support for Trump, you have to be able to message to those people, because you need their votes, and you have to be able to message to people in the center. And the only way you're going to message to the people in the center is showing that you are able to say, yeah, the president isn't great all the time. He does make mistakes. He is fallible, and we see your point of view on this. And that's how you bring them in. In my opinion, I think that's how you bring them in.
Well, you'd be in a different situation if you had said, if you were never Trump. Like I have friends who voted for George W. Bush, and I remind them, oh, George W. Bush was Hitler when he was president too. You remember that? I mean, why are you falling for the criticism of Trump? Granted, his personality and his demeanor is different than George W. Bush, so if you don't like him, it's harder to get over that hump, I think, than it was with George W. Bush, who was trying to reach out. But don't fall for the image game that the Democrats constantly play. But some of my friends, and I'm offended by this, they voted against Trump. The Democrats could have put up the biggest left-wing person, as they did with Kamala, and they hate Trump so much they would completely turn on every value and principle they have in order to vote against Trump. And I don't hear that from you. And that's kind of the distinction that I've drawn, is you haven't turned into a never Trumper. You're a critic, but is it correct? Or?
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and I think you can say, yes, I think Trump's done great on certain things. I think fundamentally he is reshaping world trade, and he is making America a superpower again. These are things we can praise the president on. And then at the same time, we can say, yeah, this sucks. You shouldn't have done it. Look what's happening to Virginia now. You tinkered in Texas, and now we're going to possibly lose some of the best Congress people, and that sucks. And I think you can say that. And it doesn't mean you would vote for Kamala Harris. It just means, yeah, it's okay to disagree. And if Democrats see us acting like that more, they're going to be more inclined to vote with us on things like this. They may not vote for Trump, but on a gerrymandering question, they would be more inclined to vote for us, I think, than if we just become tribal and it's us versus them. If it's us versus them, we're losing this thing by 65%.
So you still think there's a chance that Republicans can pull this off if the vote happens on April 21st? And tell me whether is there going to be a vote on
Yeah,
April
that's
21st,
great.
even though this injunction has been put in place about the preparations for the early voting?
So remember on Dumb and Dumber when Jim Carrey was talking to the girl and he's like, would you go out with me? And she's like, I wouldn't go out with you unless you were the last person on the planet, right? And he's like, so you're saying I have a chance, right?
Right. Okay.
I mean, probably there's a chance we can pull this off on the polls, but not a good one. Not statistically, not a good one. So we are in the big legal fights, and we are seeing a lot of good things happening. Tazewell has issued a statewide injunction on Thursday last week, which the Supreme Court has not stayed yet, which is pretty interesting to watch because
I was betting that was going to happen yesterday.
me too.
Weren't you?
I thought Friday night we are going to see just a slip order that said injunction stayed. We're going to figure out what to do next week.
Why didn't they?
I don't know.
Because they were pretty brutal in their first announcement
Yep.
with this judge. I think the judge was correct, but the Supreme Court got it wrong. But they were pretty bold about their rebuke of him. I thought.
Yeah, they held no punches that they wanted this to go to the voters. But the judge ordered the Department of Elections. They can't even prepare for it. They can't. They're frozen. And so DOE is completely frozen. They can't do anything. And so for the Supreme Court to let that go day after day after day makes it harder and harder because we're supposed to start voting next Friday. And so this is an incredibly short window, and the Department of Elections has been frozen out now for 5 days. That's a great sign, but fundamentally, I don't trust the courts ever in political battles to do the right thing. And so we are still all pushing forward. I've met with many supervisors throughout the state about passing the referendum resolution that I've proposed, which says we're not going to break the Constitution, guys. You're asking us to violate the Constitution to hand ballots to voters on March 6th. And the Constitution says you cannot submit the question to the voters earlier than 90 days. They vote, it's irrevocable, unchangeable on March 6th, well within the 90 days. It may not be counted till April 21, but you're handing them the ballot. And so localities like Spotsylvania, Campbell County, I think Wythe is going to come online, Lynchburg's going to come online. These counties are starting to say, whoa, you're asking us to do something constitutionally illegal, and we need a court to tell us if this is okay or not okay.
They're begging the Supreme Court to step in here and
or
do
even
their job.
Even their circuit court, their local trial court. Just tell us what to do, because 90 days means 90 days to me, and to you.
I would think so too. Look, just read the law and follow the law. Whether I like it or not is irrelevant. It's read the law and follow the law. I'm sure it's going to upset somebody. Do you think, though, that this potentially disenfranchises or stops the movement for Republican voters to show up? That's been one of the things that's said to me is like, this is great, except that in the end, you're probably you're shutting down our effort to stop this at the ballot box.
If we create enough chaos, John, this is going to be an illegitimate process. And that's what we have to do, because what they've done, they passed this thing illegally. They didn't do it between two intervening sessions. They're now making us vote illegally. As Republicans, we just have to say, we're not going to do this. We have to stand up and say, we're not going to let you break the law 2, 3, 4 times. Not even the law.
And then act like it's all okay.
Yeah, the Constitution. And then, here we are, March 6th, let me vote. No, we can't do that, as we have to fight, and the lawyers have to fight. And I understand Mark Peake, who I love. He's a great guy, and he's very outspoken and critical of me on this, which is fine because it's okay to disagree with each other. I don't have my feelings hurt that Mark Peake is criticizing me, and so. But the point is that it's a completely illegal, illegitimate process, and we have to fight and we have to try to stop it. And thank God these counties are doing it. It's not about disenfranchising people. It's about saying we're not going to do something that violates the Constitution. You cheating Democrats. That's what it's saying. And
and these are elected officials. It's not just riots in the streets.
That's right.
The Democrats try to get the lowest, low information, emotionally manipulated people into the streets and use that as validation for their opinion. And in this case, you're going to the elected officials locally to try to. And boy, the Democrats always play the sanctuary card. We're not going to obey this law or that law. We don't have to obey federal law because we don't like it. Okay, well, if we're in this case, we're actually obeying the law. We're looking at the law and I think it's a really interesting argument. And I do think, I don't want to say cause chaos because that sounds nefarious on our part, but be strict in following the law and demanding that everybody else do it. If that causes a problem for you, maybe you're in the wrong, Democrats, I think.
Yeah, the idea of chaos is that everybody should be screaming, this isn't legal. And there should be this chaos of protest.
Yeah.
There has to be a chaos of protest. I mean, we cannot look at what they've done. We all know what they've done is wrong and what they're doing is wrong, and then show up on March 6th and say, all right, we're going to participate. Can't do it. We have to stand up. People threw tea in Boston Harbor, and we got this was over taxation. I mean, like, we got to get our roots back and start saying, look, we are governed by the consent of the people. And, sure, you can do a constitutional amendment, but you're going to do it right, 100% right. No cutting corners, no thing. And to that point, they have done it right on the abortion amendment, on the gay marriage amendment, on the
and they know it. That's why that's coming up in November.
They've done that right, and I can't fuss at them for that. But this one, they're cheating, and we've got to step up and say, hell no, we're not going to let it happen.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad you're raising the hell that needs to be out there. Tim Anderson, we'll check and see how things go this evening from 4 to 7 and whether you become the Republican nominee for that seat in the House of Delegates. And I always appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Good to see you, John.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, we'll see. I felt uncomfortable. My role at the radio station, I always tried to have all the candidates on, and that's just impossible. I didn't even know there were 5 people running. I knew there were 3. So I'm going to have to do some research after the program, who these other 2 people that I'm not familiar with. I can't have everybody on with one of these really short lead up elections for a local seat. But, Tim has positioned himself as one of these folks who speaks very boldly, whether he's in the General Assembly or not. And since he's been one of the leaders of the gerrymandering pushback, I thought it was important to have him on. I wanted to explain that. And, my friend Patty Lyman, who has been offering commentary at the bottom of the screen, she is definitely right about this. In Texas and other states, they're not changing the state constitution. They're not tearing up the state constitution or attempting to get people to change this like it's a law. And this is where civics education is so important. We changed our Constitution, the fundamental principle of the way we govern the state of Virginia, in order to take politics out of this. And it is really crass and wrong to suddenly see things change and decide to tear that up at this moment. That was the whole point of changing the Constitution. If you didn't want to do that, you should have just passed a law, and then we could flip back and forth every 2 years after every election. Oh, Republicans run it, we'll change it. We do this with the Democrats. But that's not the decision that Virginians made. And you got to guard against the emotionalism. It's like somebody dies because of a shooting with a gun. I'm telling you, the only reason that they haven't gone door to door to take every gun away from people is that the Constitution protects your personal rights to defend yourself. And I'm not interested in the emotional reaction from a bunch of, I won't call names, but a bunch of people who I don't think understand the importance of defense. They will in the future, I'm afraid. I'm not interested in seeing the people stripped of their rights based on emotionalism to something else that's happening. That's why you put something in the Constitution, is so that the emotions of the moment don't change the fundamental principles that we're guided by. So Patty is absolutely right. Virginia is a very different situation than the other states where this is being debated and executed upon. And I think, I hate to say this, I think that's almost too much of an intellectual argument for the average person to pay attention to, because they're motivated by just hatred for Trump. But we got to do our best. All right, real quick, we're going to take a break and come back. We'll continue to give away another set of tickets to the VIP reception with Jamie Franklin at the Reid Revolution at gmail.com when we return on the Reid Revolution on this Tuesday. All right, back on this Tuesday morning. I'm John Reid, the Reid Revolution. In the final segment of the show, we're always joined by producer Dan, and I'm very pleased to you. I know you were screaming in the background during that conversation. So you have very strong opinions about these things. You have an instant reaction to any of this?
Yeah, Patty Lyman's on line two. No. Obviously, yeah. Everybody has something to say about this. I mean, if you want my thoughts on it, I'll certainly share them. I don't mean to be divisive in this regard, but
Uh-oh, what are you going to say?
Well, I think I lean a little bit more toward the Patty side of the equation here. Just in that I don't think that we ought to be blaming Trump for this. As Tim himself said when he was on the show, I think a couple of weeks ago, talking about how the Democrats have been doing this whole gerrymandering thing forever and ever and ever. I mean, if anything, President Trump was simply responding to that. Now, maybe we could argue about the timing.
He's making a messaging argument. He's making a messaging argument.
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, look, I've voted for Trump 3 times. I'm not taking it back. I don't have a problem with it. I know people hate him. I don't even argue with you. If you hate him, okay. I'm not arguing with you about that. I'm looking at the results, but I recognize, you don't know, Dan. When I was campaigning up in Northern Virginia, outside of Republican groups, the hatred is off the charts. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And it was directed at me. And people would, I'd talk to him. I remember talking to one guy for 30 minutes, and the campaign manager's like, John, you need to go. And after we got in the car, he's like, are you going to waste 30 minutes talking to somebody like this? You're never going to get their vote. And I was like, I felt like I had to. He's like, dude, you are wasting your time talking to people who hate Trump that much. You will never get through to them. And I mean, maybe he was right. I mean, I guess the results indicate that he was right. The only hope here is to get the core Republican vote out and hope that maybe some of the Democrats don't show up. Maybe, because I did the best I could, even as a partisan conservative Republican, to try to find some common ground with that middle-of-the-road voter. And it didn't work. I mean, I wish I could come up with some excuse. It just didn't work.
Yeah, maybe, like I said, maybe we split hairs by saying that the timing wasn't the best, and talk about it that way without necessarily just saying this is Trump's fault. I don't think that that's necessarily the most productive way to go. But and I don't think it's, like I say, in a cart and horse situation. He was the cart, not the horse. He really was, in the grand scheme of things. The Democrats have been playing this game for a long time, and I think Jeff Katz, when he was last on, was talking about what Massachusetts is like when he was up in Massachusetts, and how you got 40% of the voters up in Massachusetts who are Republican. They don't have any representation. Why is that?
And we're having an argument with people who have already spent years talking about packing the Supreme Court. Okay, if we can't win with the current number of 9, we'll make it 27.
Right.
And we'll just make sure we jam it with people we agree. I mean, how do you have a fair and honest, legitimate intellectual conversation with people who are already telegraphing to you that that's their mindset? The rules don't benefit us. We will just blow out the rules. I mean, at some point, you're going to get rolled if you don't respond to that. I get it. I think it's just a messaging thing here, though. I don't question. I mean, I know Tim wasn't like flat out Trump all the way, except once he got the nomination, right? Once Trump got the nomination, I think Tim was right back on the Trump train. He had expressed some concerns about whether he could win. I think a lot of people expressed those concerns, even people who liked President Trump. Then he won, then he got the nomination, and then it's like, hey, if you're on the team, you got to go with the team.
Yeah, I don't know if I can maybe go macro for a minute, which you know I'm always inclined to do. But it's maybe ties into the fact I told you before the show I'd submitted some feedback to the Richmond Forum about Saturday night's event, which of course is all about the two-party system and it's such a problem because of democracy this, democracy that, and the real branch I think that has failed us for 200 years is the judiciary branch. And yes, they've said no to the legislature and to the executive a lot, but in my mind, not nearly as much as should have been the case for the last 2 centuries. And part of the problem is, part of the reason why this is so contentious is because elections have become far more important to the state of public affairs than really the founding generation, the founding fathers, ever intended for them to be. We should have had basically a situation where elected officials get to office and then they're pretty strictly limited about what they can do. But because we've sort of ignored that for so long, these situations are knockdown, drag-out fights where it is crucially important.
The legislature has created and
a welfare state and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is
now we're way
if
outside
not for that,
of the parameters of what the government was set up.
Exactly, and that's why we're in this situation where this is so catastrophic, because we have ignored the limited government-based framework of this society for 200 years, truly, for 200 years. I mean, I think I could go back to John Marshall's decision in, what was the case in 1619 with, or 1819 with Maryland? Forgive me for blanking on it in the moment, but it was a commerce case. But even there, it was like as early as that, and maybe even earlier, we were beginning to become rather imaginative in terms of, what can our government do for us? And that's from a very early point on, that mustard seed grew and grew and grew and grew, and that's why we are where we are in today's day and age. So it's a shame.
Well, it's all coming crashing down. $39 trillion in debt. It appears to me, I don't think I'm being bombastic, that we have a permanent protest class filled with people who are, they may not overtly call themselves communists, although more of them are than ever before. I mean, you look at the protests in Richmond. Zoom in on the pictures of the people who are protesting in Richmond. They are wearing communist symbols. They're wearing shirts and hats that say they're socialists. So, I used to feel kind of guilty when I would say, gosh, I feel like the Democrat Party has been overtaken by socialists/communists. Like, am I being emotional? Am I being bombastic? Is this not true? Now I look at the pictures and the people who are out there asserting themselves as the leaders of the party, including like Schuyler von Valkenburg, the guy who represents me, unfortunately, in Henrico, who said, yeah, I'm basically a socialist. Okay, that's a problem. This is coming down on us all because coupled between the debt and the growing effort to increase government spending and to increase government I think we got bad days ahead, and no reasonable conversation or discussion, because you're not able to have that anymore, as evidenced by the result in my election, where my opponent refused to have any conversation. I mean, you didn't get to have the conversation. There was no debate. It was just vote D versus R. All right, if that's the direction you want to go, then don't be surprised when you get bad leadership. Bad leadership from somebody who's bad in the Senate, who's now going to be bad as an executive. Don't be surprised when that's what you've got. And it's interesting, Dan. Maybe this is a good way for us to play the Fareed Zakaria clip. I'm not a big fan of Fareed Zakaria. He's had a very prominent role at CNN for many, many years. I disagree with most things that he says. I don't think we're in alignment. And I don't think that's I begin to see a pattern with people who are aligned with the left, especially who have come from foreign countries, who I just don't think are bought into the traditional view of American governance and how America should engage with the citizens. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to have to say that, like, we're getting a lot of influence from people who are not grounded in traditional American principles. Sans racism, we purged that. Mm-hmm. But boy, Fareed Zakaria let the Democrats, the communists who were running New York City, have it in his commentary, I think last night or Sunday night. Take a look at this.
Yeah, and by the way, it was McCulloch versus Maryland from 1819. I apologize for my senior moment.
Well, let's play this clip.
New York is really a prime example of a problem Democrats seem unwilling to confront. Blue cities are out of control, promising more, spending more, delivering less, and pushing off the fiscal problems to some future day. Take Los Angeles, another one-party metropolis wrestling with affordability and disorder. The city's homelessness budget for fiscal year 2025-26 totals about $950 million. The LA Homelessness Services Authority reported that in 2023, homelessness was up 9% countywide and 10% in the city. And a 2024 AP account noted that homelessness has surged 70% countywide since 2015 and 80% in the city. All this amid public frustration despite billions spent. An audit reviewed $2.4 billion in city homelessness funding and found that officials could not reliably track where it went or what it achieved. Or take Chicago, with a mayor whose approval rating is deep underwater, where the pension promises are so large that they will surely bankrupt the city at some point. What is the theory of good government here? If the answer is keep adding programs, the city will keep producing unaffordability, because unaffordability is what happens when government becomes a machine that grows faster than the society it governs. Zohran Mamdani's basic instinct is correct. Focus on affordability, especially housing, but not by providing government subsidies. These only seem to have driven up the cost of rent, as subsidies naturally do. The city's rental assistance spending rose from $263 million in fiscal year 2020 to $1.34 billion in the most recently reported fiscal year. That is a 5 times increase in a handful of years.
I mean, somebody, you go look up the entire piece, because I kept thinking, wait a minute, very rarely do I watch this guy and nod my head in agreement the whole way through. And, okay, so Democrats don't want to hear from a conservative Republican that same theme, but maybe you'll listen to him, and the numbers tell a story here. This is on steroids in New York City, with this very young, inexperienced, but ideologically driven guy who doesn't know what he's doing, other than to try to win an election. He doesn't have a clue what he's doing as an executive, because he's never done anything in his life, Mamdani in New York. But it is the exact same thing that is happening in Virginia right now with people who do have some experience. And you got to look at these numbers. The budget of Virginia continues to increase. I kept talking during the election about everyone is so concerned about educating kids, but you're being fooled. We're throwing money at something that is not working.
The government school program is not working. It may be great in Western Henrico, like the high school that my sister went to, Godwin High School down the street. You may be happy.
My alma mater as well.
You went to Godwin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, of course.
So,
yeah.
You may have school systems and individual schools that are doing well, and I would argue that's more of a socioeconomic situation than it is the school system. You have families that are together. The exposure that the young people get to other influences is positive, whether it's church, synagogue, whatever. That's different than the completely documented failure in many other parts of the state of Virginia. And we keep throwing money at it, acting like that's noble. That's not noble. That's stupid. That's foolish. It is reckless. It's irresponsible. And every year we wait to acknowledge the problem is, in the case of the educational system, another generation of young people who have lost the opportunity to read and write at grade level and be prepared to take on a job that will support them and their family. That is a crime to treat people that way. And it is, when you look at the growing debt nationally, which everybody in Virginia acts like isn't our problem. Oh, we got a balanced budget. No, you don't. You don't have a balanced budget. You have a balanced budget based on federal money coming into these programs. The second that money's not available, Virginia, along with every other state, in a huge crisis. We should be preparing for that. We should not be growing the state budget, not throwing more money at a system that doesn't work, but reforming it. No one wants to touch it. Oh my God, you even mention it, and they'll do to you what they did to me, say that you want to destroy public education instead of fix something that's not working. And until we have responsible, objective, honest people in leadership, which we do not have right now, you're going to aggravate the problem, and more people are going to be harmed. And I thought Fareed Zakaria shockingly really laid it out for leftist Democrats in that commentary. And I hope that if they won't listen to me, maybe they'll listen to him.
Well, this is Dan speaking for Dan. I am for. Let me rephrase this. I'm as against government schools as I am against government restaurants and grocery stores. How about that? For the same reasons.
Okay. Well, you will never get elected to anything. But that's okay.
Not in the current the country is currently constituted.
No, the only hope you've got, Dan, is that, and I think this is coming, is that the entire society is going to collapse, and we'll be like Italy and Greece, where you go, oh my God, all these things that we promised everybody we can't pay for anymore. So we're forced to recalibrate on everything and hope that you don't have violence in the streets with people killing each other and mass starvation. And I know that sounds crazy to talk about. I understand that people just can't even imagine that could happen here, but it has happened around the world, and a lot of people get hurt and die. And I think we should be, I mean, I'm not making up the $39 trillion number. That's not a made up number. That's a real number. So, at some point, can we face reality, or are we just going to pretend that it doesn't exist? And that's what we're doing right now.
Well, you've heard of a Cold War. We're basically in a cold Civil War as is right now. I mean, that's where we are. It's like a cold Civil War
with pops of heat, where people are killing each other.
Yeah.
Where leftists are killing the cops. This is weird. The snowstorm yesterday in New York City. All these police officers are being attacked with ice snowballs. And you look at that and you go, oh, I mean, it's just a snow fight. It's just, they're just throwing snow. They're not, that's not what that indicates. That indicates that a massive number of people in the city of New York, this was not a fun snowball fight where the cops stopped to play pickup basketball with a bunch of kids in the neighborhood. That's not what this was. This was a non-lethal way of saying, get the you-know-what out of our neighborhood, and we hate you and we despise you. I don't know how you can stay in New York if you're a cop. And I'm afraid that that's coming to Virginia, between the attitude of the Attorney General, the new Attorney General, Jay Jones, with the let's kill our political opponents because that's the only way we can get them to come around to our point of view, and
the decision by Governor Spanberger and the rest of the Democrats, to hell with federal law, we're just not going to cooperate with that anymore, and that we're going to make it difficult, and we're going to put everybody in danger in order to make the political statement we want to make, that should really worry people. And I see that happening in New York. And because there's so many people packed into such a small place in New York, I think you're going to begin to see the consequences of these judgments really fast. And here, the good thing is the Democrats aren't holding back, and they're doing bad things here in Virginia. We might start to see the consequences, and I pray to God that in the next 4 years, there'll be enough people who go, well, no, wait a minute, this isn't what we signed up for, and the end results aren't good. Let's fix it before it tanks us. But in the last week, I've had several people that I could name who have said, we're leaving. We put the house up for sale and we're leaving. They're in retirement, so it's not like they're making a dramatic decision about their businesses, and their kids are all done and they're going. They already
Why
had an
stick
apartment
around
in Florida.
Yeah.
But that's a problem if the people who have money and the people who are running businesses and the people who are successful, who aren't necessarily looking for a handout, are the ones who are hitting the road and want 24, son, 12 months a year down in Florida with no property tax, right, and no income tax. And they look, why in the world am I staying in Virginia? To just be robbed, to pay for people who are shooting folks in Shockoe Bottom? Why am I subjecting myself and my family to that? We got a problem, and I think it's going to appear quickly. The question is, do we respond to it and recalibrate quickly, too, before the real damage is done?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going through my notes. Was there anything else we wanted to cover here today?
There's always more to cover, which is a good thing that we're a daily show that's on every day at 10 a.m.
Poor Nancy Guthrie, right?
Yeah.
The $1 million reward. I feel terrible. Just awful about
and that latest video from Savannah is really gut wrenching.
Yeah. So. She may be rich and she may be famous, but I think you got to look at that and feel bad for her. And I do think it's important to know that she's not the only one. These things happen, and if I want to remake the point, if we are not tough on crime, and we don't punish people harshly when they demonstrate that they're violent and they're criminals, this is going to continue to increase. And you can cry about it after the fact when your friend is a victim of it, but you have the opportunity now to stop it, and you need to take that opportunity. And it requires discipline of the society, which Democrats refuse to do. I don't care whether you're white or black.
And we've permitted a lot, so we've promoted a lot. And I hope that you're kind of headed sort of where I was going to go, and I hope that this isn't too insensitive. Obviously, my thoughts are with the Guthries, and this is awful what's happened, and I hope somehow that this poor woman is okay. But it's not lost on me that the industry in which Savannah Guthrie has worked is 95% leftist? Is that fair to say?
I mean, NBC
News. I do hope also that she and other cohorts of hers are maybe thinking about some of the things that they've thought politically for a long time with regard to this subject, with regard to crime and certain leftist causes, and maybe are recalibrating in their mind. Oh, you know what? We might want to rethink how lenient we are about some things and where our priorities are, because we do need to be tougher, like you say, on this sort of thing. What happened Wendy here on the text line is talking about the shooting in Shockoe on Saturday night.
9 people shot, right, and 2
and I've seen the video. I don't know if you've seen the video. I think I sent you the video. It's out there, and it's
the shooting.
It's harrowing. Yeah, it's harrowing.
I haven't.
And I saw another video from Fayetteville, North Carolina this weekend, with just a guy with R-15. I refuse to call them assault weapons. Let's be accurate. They're semi-automatic. In the hands of the right person, they're very much anti-assault weapons. But this was not a good guy. So in his case, it was an assault weapon. But somebody just running around an apartment complex shooting.
Yeah.
And we have been much too lenient with this stuff. And
pretty soon, going back to the cop situation, pretty soon you're not going to have anybody to enforce the laws. No matter how serious you suddenly become, you're going to have no one to do that work.
Yeah.
And
because nobody who wants to sign up for this.
Then you're going to be on your own. Then you're going to be on your own, and then we're going to have vigilante justice.
Justice, yeah, street
and
justice,
a lot of really bad things are going to happen. And I don't think I'm just making this up. I mean, you can go city around the world where this is what's occurred.
I'm putting us on the spot right now. Do we have any idea, just percentage-wise, how much police applications are down in the last 6 years since COVID? It's got to be at least 25%. At least, I would think.
Well, I don't know what it is today, but it was down. Yeah. We had huge deficits.
Yeah.
And open spots in even counties like Henrico. I don't know what it is today, but never ask a question publicly if you don't know the answer, Dan.
That's right.
Politics 101, Dan.
My lawyerly training has failed me. Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, just speculative, but my guess is it's at least around what we're talking about, which we all know that there's definitely a dearth based on current events. So.
Well, did you check the email to see who's won these tickets?
Let's take a look here. I can pull that up on my other computer here. Let's see.
Yeah. So these are tickets to see Jamie Franklin at the Virginia Forum this Friday, the 27th of February at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. Now, you can get tickets. If you didn't win the free tickets today, you can get tickets by going to thevirginiacouncil.org, and there's a special discount. And I mentioned a couple of times, if you've got a young person in your life, a high school student or college student who's back for the weekend, and you want to go and have an intellectual conversation with a young woman who is really moving the needle with women who are conservative in society. Jamie Franklin is a really interesting person. She'll give her remarks, and then I'll have an opportunity to interview her on stage. The whole thing is done within 2 hours at the most, from 7 to about 9 at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. And why don't I re-up my offer here in our last segment? If you're the 10th person to email tickets, and if you've already sent an email, good, send it again. Tickets in the subject line. The 10th person who responds now will give you 2 free VIP tickets for the reception to meet Jamie Franklin and to be present. And send that to thereidrevolution@gmail.com. Thereidrevolution@gmail.com. And then I'll have a stack of tickets to hand out here. And I may do that every day. Are you good with that, Producer Dan? If we do this every day between now and Friday? I mean, I would love to see.
Send me some email, at thereidrevolution@gmail.com.
And you're going,
I love checking it. Yes, I will. I will be there. Don't let that deter you from sending that email to the Reid Revolution.
If you want to meet Producer Dan, he'll be there. I'll be there. It's going to be great.
We're trying to sell people on the idea of coming here, but no. But yes, I will be. I will be there, and I will be delighted to meet anybody who wants to say hi for whatever reason to me on that evening in and around the Franklin address there and John's. Will you be having a Q&A with her afterward like usual?
Yeah. The speech and then an interviewer on stage. Yeah. So the virginiacouncil.org is where you can find out about the tickets and send that email to thereidrevolution@gmail.com. That's going to do it for us on this Tuesday. Make sure you tune in to the President's Address tonight for the State of the Union. And then I will be sticking around because I'm a respectful person who's also intellectual enough to want to hear from my political opponent. I will be sticking around to hear whatever Governor Spanberger has to say in her response, her English language response to President Trump after the State of the Union tonight. Talk to you tomorrow morning. I'm John Reid, the Reid Revolution.